Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, J. Up next, all of the Ravens' bills are now coming due. Let's talk. The Baltimore Ravens are now getting ready to have to pay the bill for swiping the credit card continually, but not getting anything in return for their investments. And that is what I believe. Okay, take number 3. Go. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the... Take number 4. Go. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, J. Up next, all of the Ravens' bills are now coming due. Let's talk. The Baltimore Ravens right now are in a desperate, broken type of situation. And if I can be honest, the injuries didn't cause it. It has been their continual living on NFL credit. Let me explain. Take your own credit cards, for example. Let's say you had 5 or 6 credit cards, $10,000, $20,000 balances, and you go to a store and you swipe. You bring home the item and a receipt. And then you go to the restaurant and you swipe. And then you go on vacation and you swipe. And then you go to the car dealership and you swipe. And you go to Neiman Marcus and you swipe. And you go to Gucci and you swipe. And you go to Louis Vuitton and you swipe. So you're just swiping. And all you pay is the minimum payment. That's pretty easy, right? You spend $1,000, you pay $100 back per month. And then you spend $2,000 and you pay $150 back per month. And then you spend $2,000 more and you say, I'm gonna make a big payment, I'm gonna pay $500. But you're not realizing that if all you're making is low-end payments, minimum payments, that debt is going up and up and up, and you're still swiping. And so when that credit card gets maxed out, you know what you do? You just use another one. And then before long, you got 5 or 6 credit cards all maxed out, and now you have nowhere to go. You see, the Baltimore Ravens have done that across the last 7 or 8 seasons in the league. And I'm going to give them a discount for 2018 and 2019. Why a discount? A charge off for 2018 and 2019? Because in 2018, they were in quarterback transition, right? In 2019, no one understood what the Baltimore Ravens had in Lamar Jackson until after he won the MVP. But from the 2020 offseason coming this way, the Baltimore Ravens have continued to swipe positional credit cards with no real return on their investment. And that's why we're in the situation that we're in. Over the course of the last 6 seasons, that'd be 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. The Baltimore Ravens have continued to swipe, but never get anything in return that was credible. Valuable, but not really credible, not really sustainable, not really long-standing. You see, you guys remember for a couple of seasons, probably 21, 22, into 23 when they drafted Zay Flowers, probably 2020 all the way to 23 when they drafted Zay Flowers. What have we been saying here? We had been saying that, hey, we need a high-end wide receiver. And the Baltimore Ravens, right on schedule, did things like bring in Deshaun Jackson, bring in Dez Bryant at one point, go and get a Sammy Watkins at one point. And then on top of that, they drafted numerous players. 2019, Hollywood Brown. 2021, they drafted Rashad Bateman. Don't let me forget Devin Duvernay. I think he was in 2020. They drafted guys like Miles Borkins. They drafted Tylan Wallace, who is still around. They most recently drafted Devontae Walker, and then the jewel of all those draft picks was Zay Flowers. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple of other picks. But here we are, looking around with all that swiping, and we legitimately don't have a number 1 level wide receiver. Now, I understand. I do. I understand that the price to get a number 1 wide receiver is either going to cost you a lot of draft capital to make a trade, or if you find that guy through the draft, you're going to have to pay him a high wage. Either way, the goal is to get a guy in place to support what you have found since the 2019 season to be a franchise level quarterback. But that's not what the Baltimore Ravens did. And now when the Baltimore Ravens look around specifically at the wide receiver position, they have a lot of receipts, but there's nothing to really make an exchange with. Zay Flowers is the best of what we have. But is he ever going to be enough to lead this team at the wide receiver position. See, that wide receiver bill has to be paid. You see, yeah, we got DeAndre Hopkins, but we got DeAndre Hopkins 3 years too late. Yeah, we did get Odell Beckham 2 seasons ago, but we got Odell 3 or 4 or 5 seasons too late. And see, even with the Odell signing, you're still going to have to pay Odell because of the void years. See, these are bills that are coming due, and that is what's wrong with the Baltimore Ravens. That's why we can't make a trade like going to get a DK Metcalf. That's why we can't make a signing like getting a Devontae Adams who is still balling. That's why we couldn't make a trade and go get a DJ Moore, because we're swiping cards and not getting a return on the investment, right? See, it'd be different if we went to the high-end store and just swiped it once and walked out of there with something that's valuable, proven, a high-end commodity. But we've been swiping the credit card at the Dollar General, at the Walmart, at the Dollar Tree. And that's the kind of results we're getting right now. Let's go to the tight end room for an example. That bill is coming due. See, the Baltimore Ravens played around for the last 2 seasons until Isaiah Likely got hurt, meaning played around with his contract. The Baltimore Ravens had an understanding what Isaiah Likely was in the 2023 season. Not at the end, but in the 2023 season when he was stepping in for Mark Andrews. He had already shown flashes of what he could do in replacement of Mark Andrews. But you know what they did? They kept on playing, and then an injury happened. And the injury shut down any type of negotiations for Isaiah Likely. Now, when you look at our tight end room, the bill's due. At the end of this season, all 3 tight ends are free agents. And so the question is, what are the Ravens going to do? When you look at the running back room, yeah, we have a nice running back room. Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, but although he's slightly used, Keaton Mitchell, and Rashawn Ali. Now, in my opinion, the Baltimore Ravens, after they dismissed J.K. Dobbins, or even before they dismissed J.K. Dobbins, they should have been shopping for a high-end running back in the draft, right? There's many guys who have come out in the draft who are high-end performers, right? J.K. Dobbins started to get hurt from the 2021 season, 2022 season, 2023 season, and so then he departed, right? And right now, that same J.K. Dobbins is number 5 in the league in rushing, but that's not here nor there. But why did the Baltimore Ravens not draft a high-end running back? Well, of course, last season we signed Derrick Henry. That's fine. But people kept saying, oh, you got to extend Derrick Henry. You got to extend Derrick Henry. And my thought was, my conversation to you guys was, why? Derrick Henry don't get an extension. He's under contract. And unless I don't understand how age works in the NFL or just in life in general, age doesn't go in reverse. It only goes forward. So you double down with 2 additional years on a 31-year-old running back who eventually will be 33 or 34 before his contract stops needing to be paid, right? Then you got Justice Hill behind him. In a year, he'll be a free agent. And then you're not even using Keaton Mitchell. I suspect Keaton Mitchell will want to be out of Baltimore. So when you look around, the running back bill has to be paid. See, because you've been doing it on credit this whole time. See, instead of spending once, getting what you need, you go into the draft and you pull out Rashawn Ali. Now, I'm not banging on that kid, right? He looks like he can do some things. He can return the ball. He showed some stuff in the preseason and being able to run between the tackles, outside the tackles. All that sounds and looks real good. But he's not the long-term answer. He's not the guy that you were going to bring in and learn from Derrick Henry. That actually should have been Allen that the Jets drafted last year, late in that draft. A guy who had already been mentored by Derrick Henry, but like always, we do something silly. Let's look at the offensive line bill, right? Now, we've been shopping at the Dollar Tree and Dollar General for offensive linemen. Think about it. Once we understood who Lamar Jackson was, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25, 6 seasons. Where's your first round or second round left tackle? With all of those draft picks, I think it's 8 first round draft picks in total. Where's your first round left tackle? Where's your first or second round left guard? Where's your first or second round right guard? And all you have to show for it out of 6 seasons of drafting is 1 second-round right tackle. But you've had a franchise-level 2-time MVP quarterback for 6 seasons since that time. And so, unless we don't recognize it by now, Dollar Tree and Dollar General items don't last that long. Daniel Falele has not turned into what they thought he would. Andrew Voorhees, a 5th or 6th round draft pick who came in with a torn ACL or Achilles, I can't remember which part of the leg it was, came in like that. As the same guy who couldn't get his job back from Patrick McCarry last year. This is who you shopped for, swiped the call for, and now guess what? The Bills do. There's a theme to this. Defensive line. The Justin Madubuike deal, I said from the time that they signed up, was a bad deal. Justin Madubuike had 1 breakout year. When he got them 13 sacks, he got $100 million basically. And now I think he's going to retire. Now, that's not a knock on the injury. He can't help that he got hurt, right? But I think he is going to have to retire. Here's why. The Justin Madubuike, Nnamdi Madubuike injury wasn't an injury that we noticed on the field. He didn't collapse. He didn't get carted off. In fact, it was a couple of days later before we recognized that he was even injured. And then when John Harbaugh spoke about the injury, he said that he was concerned. After that, out for Sunday, out for the next Sunday, then out for the season. And when you have mysterious injuries like that, it typically leans into no more football. Then you have a Travis Jones who's a free agent at the end of this season, and he's not having a great season. And then you have a Broderick Washington who hasn't looked the same since he got paid. That interior defensive line bill is due. You got Aeneas Peoples, who seems like he can be a good player, but he's light in the pants. And then you got some UDFA dudes who have not performed since they got their shot. You got the edge rush position. Nobody over there other than Mike Green seems like he's going to be long-term in Baltimore, right? You drafted Odafe Owe in 2021. He hasn't done much. He had 1 double-digit sack season, and that was happenstance sacks, not just he was bending the edge and collapsing the pocket and taking the quarterback down. Let's just tell the truth about it. He's made more for a 4-3 defense than a 3-4 defense. You have Tavius Robinson, who is built more like a 4-3 DN, not a outside linebacker. And when you look around, David Ajabo, you guys remember him, 2nd round pick, came in with a torn Achilles. I guess it was a favor to Mike McDonald, But he ain't done nothing since he put the jersey on. And now he's a free agent. That bill's due. Roquan Smith, 2nd and 5th round, brought him in, overpaid him. And now it's going to be at least 1 more season after this one before you can even relieve yourself of his contract. He hasn't brought $20 million dividends to the table. He hasn't. He had 1 great season, and that was with who? Patrick Queen, a younger linebacker who has played just as good when you really, really look at it. Patrick Queen was already on the incline when they traded for Roquan Smith. And then you drafted a guy that I thought would be a good fit in Trent Simpson, who can't even break the rotation at times. The secondary may be in good hands long term, but everything in front of that bill's due. You don't have any big money in cornerbacks except for Marlon Humphrey, a guy that you did some funny business with his contract. I think he's going to have some void years on that restructure, and so you will continue to pay him even after he's gone, which I do believe this is his last season in Baltimore. So it's Nate Wiggins, TJ Tampa, and the crew. And then the biggest contract of them all is Lamar Jackson, who has a $74 million hit, something like that, next season, and a $70+ million the last season, plus his bonuses and all those kind of things. He'd probably do $150 million. And you know what? If I'm Lamar Jackson, I don't budge. We don't talk about restructuring. We don't talk about an extension until I know what your plan is for this roster. And the reason why I say all of the Baltimore Ravens bills are coming due is because every position group that I just mentioned needs to be upgraded with better talent, younger talent, sustainable talent. Yeah, we have some young kids in the wing, but they don't get shots for real. And so when you really look at what this season has turned, this is why I said it was a Super Bowl or bust type season. But that's not what EDC said. He said he don't even believe in Super Bowl windows. And John Harbaugh said out of his own mouth this offseason that it's not Super Bowl or bust. Well, dadgum, if you look at the bills that's due, including other people who have void years who you still have to pay, it should have been Super Bowl or bust this season. In all honesty, I thought EDC had done the best job in his 7 seasons as a GM this year. But nobody knew that this offensive line, all of them, all 5, were going to play like some trash, and that you wouldn't have an edge rusher of any kind that could get to the quarterback. The problem with this team is because the trenches weren't really built. And then you have no schematics and strategizing as it pertains to coaches. So the buddy system has costed the Baltimore Ravens. The lack of talent you brought into development through the draft is costing this team. And the inability or unwillingness to make the big move has costed this team. With all of those draft picks that didn't pan out, you could have packaged them together and went and got somebody. That is my motto. If you don't have a guy, go get a guy. And the Baltimore Ravens have refused to go get a guy. And now, when you look around this entire roster, you need guys everywhere. The Baltimore Ravens need to be both buyers and sellers at the trade deadline. They need to sell off some goods, turn some things back into the league and see if you can get something for them. And they need to make some major moves, not even for this season, but to know where they stand next season. So listen, you guys let me know what you think. How can the Baltimore Ravens get out of this hole? Who do they need to move on from? Who do they need to flip? And we'll go deeper into this conversation in the bye week. I'm your guy, Belanger, and I'm out.